Happy weekend to you, NIO fam. I wanted to come back with another video because I dropped one on Saturday, July 4th. And if you didn't see it, I'll link it so you can check it out. It wasn't too long, maybe about 5 minutes in length, but there were a couple comments and I want to actually highlight them, and we'll come back to the screen because I want to show you something. And along with some other things I want to tie in. This is now if we're talking about the global markets, because in that video yesterday, I mentioned that NIO is trading officially on 3 different exchanges, and it's the only company to be doing that. And this is something that William Lee had said, I believe it was in one of the earnings calls last year in 2025, when he said that. And so, my comment and response to the two folks, and I'm glad, thank you both for doing this, and so many great people in the NIO community. I can never highlight everyone and all of the great comments, but in this case, because it's kind of pertinent and relevant to the potential Stock Connect and what that might mean with more mainland Chinese investors being able to buy NIO, I wanted to point this out. And I'll go to this page from the NIO site in just a second, but I want to read my response, because the first comment was, 4 markets, you missed Frankfurt, Germany, and the other one was it's on TradeGate in euros and a derivative of the primary quotation on NYSE currency conversion through arbitrage, as is the case with quotation in Hong Kong, I believe. Now, here was my response is, if you click this link, then just hover on the financials tab, note the 3 options listed. It shows SEC, HKEX, and SGX, excuse me. This is consistent with what I've heard William Lee say in a previous earnings, where he stated that NIO is the only company with those 3 global listings. What I don't know is the specifics of other exchanges and or platforms and how they show NIO as being able to be traded, along with how those settlement systems or clearinghouses actually facilitate trades. And I'm going to show you what I'm thinking with respect to this. I've highlighted this in the past, but it's been a while, so I want to bring it up again. But first, let's go to the tab so you can see exactly what I was referencing here on the NIO site. If you go to the investor relations and then hover over the financials, you'll see SEC filings, HKEX filings, SGX filings. So those are the 3 exchanges that NIO is showing. And I believe that they have to file through whatever lender or sponsor. I'm not sure what the verbiage is exactly, but wherever they're getting sponsored through, or the entity, like I think it's Deutsche Bank for the SEC, then they do their filings as it's required by the exchange. That's my understanding. Now, here's where things get interesting. And like I said, I don't know how this comes into play, but this is a good example. NIO is not officially trading in the London Stock Exchange. And I'll do even one better. I've talked about this before. These are triple leveraged short NIO daily ETPs. These are not even actual shares, is my understanding. And the emergence, or when these appeared, were back in about August of 2021. Now let's go back and look at the NIO, and this is just in the US market. So this would be falling under the guidelines or the rules of the SEC in this case. But if you'll notice, NIO had its meteoric rise in that big move on big volume with the FTDs dropping off. FTDs are represented by the white lines. And that was back in 2020. And the price didn't start coming back down below. I mean, even at this stage, where are we? Let's see. This is that August 2021 reference. Let me go back and show you again. So right here, August 7th, 2021 is when these negative triple leveraged ETPs on the London Stock Exchange showed up. This is my understanding, is that's the first time they were able to be utilized. And so if we go to that time frame, let me find it here. This is August 6th, and the price on that day is $43 to $45 for NIO stock. After those ETPs on the London Stock Exchange were introduced, what we saw over the next months was a drawdown of the stock. And I haven't drilled down to look at the trade volume to see if there is something related there as well. But then you see the reemergence of the FTDs here in the US market as the stock price comes down to now they've got it in the 20s. And then of course, the reemergence as more and more FTDs appear and reappear as we've had this, roughly 4-year drawdown of the stock price. Now, to me, and again, it was even one of my comments, I'm like, I'm not sure how all this works, but my thinking is kind of like this. If some of these other exchanges aren't even using actual shares, and these are, tokenized or whatever, essentially fake, not even real shares, but they're able to affect and impact stock price. What it makes me curious to know is how many real shares are actually controlled and owned by, let's say, neo longs, true neo longs. And at some point, will we see another short squeeze as a result of, let's say, nefarious and manipulative activity? Now, I don't know. And I don't even like to use the manipulative word a lot of times. I usually just say suspicious. But here's the other thing. Since we're talking about right now just the FTDs, as I've been tracking them here in the SEC, governed market here in the US, I want to point this out again. I've shared it in the past, but it's worth mentioning. These are sort of the asterisks, the little notes that go along with the FTD data. And this is the one that always is in my mind. It says, and you can really go deep on this. I won't go that lengthy on this video. I'm not sure how long this video will be, but we don't have that much time, I promise you. But the concept overview is this for me. A broker dealer has up to 35 calendar days, so that is over a month, following the trade date to close out the failure to deliver position by purchasing securities of like kind and quantity. So to me, the way I understand that is they don't even have to have the shares. They can mess with stock price and get away with it for at least 35 calendar days, so easily a month. And that is why when I come back, and recently I came back to a couple of the dates here recently where we saw spikes on the FTD side of things, and there was a correlation, an apparent correlation, let's say, with the earnings for NIO and or big volume days, but only one or two big volume days, because we just haven't seen a lot of big volume, which again is why at the bottom of the screen I've kept it there and we'll continue to keep it there until we see NIO stock, let's say, get back above the $15 level, probably. And those are the three short-term stock price indicators. Trade volume, when it's elevated, when there's big trade volume, to me, that's 100 million shares traded daily. That's also probably an indicator of sentiment being more bullish and positive for NIO. That's when NIO had its big move back in 2020, 75 days of 100 million shares traded or more within a 6-month window. Price went from $3.50 to over $55. And as you can see on the screen, when the FTDs dropped off, along with that elevated trade volume, stock price shot up and then stayed up until about the time these ETPs were introduced over in the London Stock Exchange with the triple leverage, potential shorting mechanism. And that's where we saw the beginning of the NIO stock coming back down. Then you get the reemergence of the FTDs. And as I said, I've talked about this in the past, but it maybe has been a couple of years. So I thought it was worth mentioning again, especially as there could be even more potential NIO longs entering in and taking positions if NIO does get included in the Hong Kong Stock Connect. So now, I also want to mention this. Wes Christian, Wes Christian is a high-level attorney. He generally, when he represents companies and they go after and battle the shorts who are likely manipulating things, they almost never, he rarely loses, and they almost always settle. Meaning, probably part of the settlement, I would assume, is that the bad actors agree to pay X amount of money, but they don't want things published so that it's not as widely recognized or known. But in this case, I believe he's talking about and referencing, and I'll link this in the description so you can check it out. And again, you can do a deep dive and dig into this stuff as much as you want. But this is a global problem. Only certain markets globally are really attacking or going after, the bad actors for FTDs and things like that. And the reality is, with so many different platforms out there trading globally, and so many different, even like these ETPs, on an exchange where NIO isn't officially traded, I don't know what that all looks like or how that impacts or maybe in the short and or long term affects stock price movement and action. But that's why I stay focused on the research and share these things when I can. And for me, I'm just excited about the prospect of NIO having that potential listing with the Hong Kong Stock Connect, and hopefully we'll get more mainland Chinese investors who will want to invest in this company and be longs. But that's my thought. I was originally thinking this would be a shorter video, but there was quite a bit that I tried to cover and get through. So let me get it up and out as soon as possible. It's July 5th, 2026. It's Sunday in the morning. It's about 10 a.m. Central Time as I'm recording this. So thanks for sticking around to the end. I know some of you did. I'll see y'all again very soon.